For today's project, I am going to be making a dress inspired by this pin of a Vivienne Westwood Babydoll dress. Thankfully, I pretty much already had everything I needed. I have this green and white stripe fabric that I believe is a curtain that I thrifted. I already had this green ribbon lying around. I don't remember what it's from, but I saved it, and thankfully I get to use it now. For the lining, I'm going to be using this gray satin, which I'm actually very nervous about because it's really slippery and I've never really worked with anything like that. But we'll see how it goes. I'll just take my time and be very diligent with it. And for the pattern, I'm going to be using McCall's 8386. I will be doing view C with the long sleeves, just because the last dress I did had the little puffy sleeves, so I wanted to do something a bit different. I will need to hack this pattern. I'm going to just use the bodice pieces and the sleeve. And then for the skirt, I'm just going to do a full circle skirt. And on this pattern, the zip is on the side, which I don't love dresses that have the zip on the side like that. So I'm going to be slashing the back panel up the middle and putting the zipper in the back instead of on the side. I have made a mock-up. Well, actually I made two mock-ups. I made it in a size 14 and that didn't quite fit me. So I then had to go back through and cut out a size 16 and that fits really well. I mocked up the sleeve pattern. Unfortunately, it is too short, which I had already added 2 inches before I did the mock-up because I knew the pattern was going to be too short for me. And now I've got to go and slash the sleeve pattern again and add in 2 more inches, I think, which is where I'm at in the process now. I've just got to add some tissue paper in between these and add in my 2 inches on the sleeve, and then I will be ready to start cutting out pattern pieces. So now that I have all my pieces cut out, the first step in the process is going to be adding the fusible interfacing into the lining pieces. Since the lining is so slippery, I'm trying to be very diligent and I'm pinning it into my ironing board. Then I'm just going to kind of go very carefully around the edges just to get it kind of tacked down, and then I'll take the pins out and fully iron it in there. That way nothing slips around and I hopefully get a really nice finished result. It also is kind of difficult because I drew my darts in and all my points in with a friction pen, so it's going to erase if I touch it with the iron, but I think I might just have to go for it and then redraw those pieces on there. I was a little bit nervous about doing this part because on the last fabric I used this fusible interfacing on. Once I started ironing it, it kind of felt like things were shrinking. Thankfully it doesn't seem like it's happening this time around, so that must have just been the type of fabric I was using. Alright, so here's what it looks like after I've ironed on the interfacing. Turned out really nice, so now I just gotta go through and re-add the markings that got ironed off. And then, oh shit, didn't iron it well enough. So let me fix that, and then I'll go through and add the marking. So off camera, I just pinned up all my darts. It might be overkill with the pins, I don't know. I'm just very nervous about this slippery fabric that it's going to be hard to get these darts done. I'm going to start at the point and hopefully it doesn't slip around too much. So I got it sewed pretty well. There's a little bit of like stitch catching there. I think it looks pretty nice from the outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up all these darts and then I will move on to pressing them flat. I've sewed all of the darts into both my fashion fabric and my lining for the front and the back pieces. And so those are ready to be pressed. But before I move on to the pressing portion, I need to fold the pleats along the top of the sleeve. So they kind of pleat like this, well, not that direction, like this, and then fold towards the center on both sides. And then I gotta base that down. So I'm gonna do that before I move on to the pressing portion. So the next step in the process is going to be to press all the darts. For the back pieces, I'm going to press the darts towards the back seam, and then for the front pieces, I'm going to press the darts downwards towards the waist. Okay. I'm actually so happy with that. I feel like that turned out really nicely. Like there's not really any weird bubbling or anything around it. You can't really see the tip at all. So I'm just gonna repeat that on all my pieces and then go back to sewing. So off camera, I sewed all of the bodice pieces together for the fashion fabric as well as the lining. So those are all put together. I also pressed down the seams so that they'd be ready to be attached to each other. And then I also sewed my first portion of my seam for my sleeve. I'm choosing to do a French seam for this, so I did them wrong sides together, trimmed the seam allowance, and now I'm going to go and sew it right sides together to encapsulate this seam. Then I need to hem the sleeve, and those will be ready to be attached whenever that time comes. I also got my circle skirt cut out. I did hold it up to myself, and I think it might be a little bit too much fullness, so I might be cutting this down a bit to make it a little less full, just because, I don't know, I wanted it to give a certain sort of effect with it, like, draped, and it's just kind of too much right now. But I'll make that decision later because I don't want to cut into my circle skirt until I'm absolutely positive that I want to make those changes. So I'm going to spend some time playing around with this, draping it, and deciding whether I want to trim it down or if I want to keep it as a full circle skirt. And then I will either make those changes, make it smaller, or I will just cut the seam up the back and prepare it to put it in the bodice. So I ultimately did decide that it was too full. So in this clip you can see I'm just laying out the skirt, trying to match up everything so that it's nice and even, so that I can cut out a symmetrical chunk. I just sort of folded over the edge here and cut off this pie slice. I don't really know fraction-wise how much I took off, maybe like a third, maybe 2/5. It has been a minute since I worked on my dress because I feel like all I've been doing is working. But I have today and tomorrow off, so I'm really just going to buckle down and finish everything. But first I wanted to pop on and show what I have done. I hemmed the sleeves. I think it turned out really nice. I just did white thread and I just skipped over the green stripes and just did the blind stitch like that. And you can barely see the little stitches. I feel like I kind of nailed it. And that was my first time ever doing that kind of stitch. So I did that on both sleeves. I sewed the lining into the bodice. The skirt is added. I have the zipper in the fashion fabric portion, but I still need to close up the rest of the skirt, which is what I'm doing next. And then I have to sew the lining to the zipper. And then I also have to do the blind stitch again on the bottom of the lining to hide these raw edges on the skirt edge. And then I gotta attach the sleeves. Oh my gosh, now that I'm saying it, it seems like a lot. Then I gotta attach the sleeves, and then I want to put it on my dress form to sit overnight so that the hem can kind of relax before I trim it and actually sew the hem. So I need to get everything done today so that it can just hang on the dress form as long as possible. So all that being said, I'm going to just turn the camera off and just work as much as I can and get this all done, and then I will come back once I'm putting her on the dress form. So I was definitely lying in that last clip. I did not buckle down and get it all finished in my 2 days off. It's been 4 days since I filmed that last part. And that day I did finish the dress, I just didn't film the reveal or anything. So that is the goal for today. I'm going to do something with my hair and go film the reveal of this dress.